The title of my presentation is Change Making, Making Change, Frameworks for the Makers. My name is Michael Moon, and I'm a professor in the Department of Public Affairs and Administration at California State University East Bay in Hayward, California. It is not surprising that people who wish to be bottom-up organizational change agents don't know what they can responsibly do to make change. Two primary reasons for this are, 1, change agents' limited formal authority and resources, and 2, a literature that largely ignores them as an audience. In this presentation, I propose a way forward from a bottom-up change agent's perspective that applies a maker mindset and an inventory of tactical actions for pathways to implementing change. In short, change makers tinker with a repertoire of tactical moves and act on them to make change. This is change making, making change. The agenda is as follows. First, I'll define the term change maker and explain how a change maker can use bottom-up change frameworks by applying what I call tactical moves. The second section provides specific examples of tactical moves drawn from a half-dozen prominent frameworks that are grouped by similar theoretical approaches. Third, these tactical moves are reordered into an inventory as a practical repertoire or toolkit that can be tailored by each changemaker according to their goals and context. And finally, fourth, I recap the notion of change making, making change, and wrap up with a list of references cited. I coined the term change maker for a bottom-up organization change agent with a maker mindset and action orientation. A change maker has a maker mindset, which is characterized, according to Thomas and Besser, by curiosity, playfulness, risk-taking, responsibility, persistence, resourcefulness, willingness to share, and optimism. This mindset originates from maker spaces and maker fairs, where DIY enthusiasts with critical curiosity and inherent resistance to commercialism exhibit innovative solutions to everyday problems, often with engineering ingenuity and skill. Changemakers bring this maker mindset to workplaces. They are competent tinkerers, cobbling available resources, methods, and personal networks to actively explore local incremental change opportunities. They enact unostentatious everyday leadership. This presentation draws tactical moves from 3 bottom-up organizational change literatures. 1, Institutional Entrepreneurship, Tempered Radicals, and Tempered Leadership. 2, Bottom-up Change and Constructionist Conversation. And 3, Social Movements in Organizations. Tactical moves are actions a change maker can implement to pursue larger organizational change goals. The emphasis on moves highlights the importance of action, explained later regarding Meyerson's tempered radical approach. The changemaker's cobbling effort is primarily a practical means to building solutions for local problems. Attention to grand theorizing is tertiary. Underlying theory of tactical moves can help explain why and how a given action could lead to change within an organizational context. Theory is not a user's guide. Although the bottom-up organizational change frameworks reviewed for this presentation construct different interpretations about how to do bottom-up change and what to pay attention to, they do share a common set of assumptions about change agent situations. The first is that the changemaker has access to limited resources and decision-making authority regarding the intended change. Second, the changemaker has low formal organizational power. Third, senior managerial participation is absent, at least initially, in the change effort. Fourth, the change effort is envisioned and initiated by an individual typically intended for a local rather than a global setting, which might be a long-term goal. Fifth, along with the local level focus, change is expected to be incremental rather than revolutionary, at least initially. And sixth, relative continuity is necessary with respect to formal role, responsibilities, and tasks. Overly disruptive actions create too much risk for one's credibility and job security. I will now describe tactical moves that can be included in a repertoire of bottom-up change actions. And again, these are the theoretical frameworks from which I gathered the tactical moves. Institutional entrepreneurship addresses the paradox of embedded agency, which is the tension between established institutional norms and individual efforts towards change, sometimes called entrepreneurial divergence, as in divergence from norms. Key factors are field characteristics, which represent the organizational environment, and the actor's social position, which is the individual's role and status. Tempered radicals are organizational insiders who feel like outsiders because their social identity, values, or beliefs are at odds with the dominant culture. They balance hopes for radical change with conformity to organizational norms, as cautious and committed catalysts who keep going and who slowly make a difference. Action is key, bridging personal values with organizational learning and change outcomes. Tempered radicals' experience of contradictory pressures allows them to sustain their critical consciousness and therefore persist in their change efforts. Meyerson describes tempered radicals as everyday leaders who work within systems, not against them. Kezar and her colleagues' studies on tempered leadership, differentiated from Meyerson's tempered radicalism, focus on faculty and staff at higher education institutions and their enactments of tempered leadership, which is a combination of tempered radicalism and grassroots activism. These change agents are employees who work specifically on social movement issues such as equity, climate change, and expanding access to college. Kezar emphasizes the critical importance of convergence, which is the joining of bottom-up efforts together with formal top-down authority initiatives to sustain and broaden bottom-up change. Institutional entrepreneurship tactical moves involve developing a vision by diagnostic identification of specific existing failings and causes, prognostic promotion of a proposed improvement, and motivational means to obtain others' support and participation. Also, mobilizing people by engaging in discourse and deploying resources, such as those that come with formal authority and social capital. Tempered radical tactical moves are ordered from less to more disruptive. Resisting quietly and staying true to oneself, such as balancing personal and professional priorities. Turning threats into opportunities, such as redirecting face-to-face conflicts as teaching moments, or humorously diffusing tension while also making a deeper point. Broadening impact through negotiation, such as working through difficult situations by remaining open to positive negotiated outcomes for all parties, not as a zero-sum battle. Leveraging small wins, such as viewing incremental changes as small wins and as stepping stones to larger strategic achievements, and organizing collective action based on the notions of power and visibility in numbers and the value of pooling resources. Kezar and colleagues found 9 tempered leadership tactics which come from studies in higher education settings: organizing discussions and professional development, leveraging curricula and classrooms, working with students and like-minded colleagues, garnering resources and support, using data and networks, and partnering with stakeholders. Kezar also uses the grassroots processes of change from the literature: developing a vision, raising consciousness, creating networks, empowering others, building relationships, mobilizing people, garnering resources, and persuading and influencing. The basis for Moon's bottom-up instigated change perspective is the social constructionist notion that conversation change is organizational change. Of course, the relationship is not deterministic, and the institutional inertia that anchors the paradox of embedded agency is not ignored. However, along the lines of Ford, viewing the organization within language and conversations is a potential inroad for bottom-up change, such as making sense of resistance to change. Moving hearts and minds can move organizations. For this bottom-up change framework, tactical moves occur at the level of dialogue, narrative, and sense-making. Moon further points out that beyond the utilitarian goals of bottom-up change approaches, the emancipatory possibilities for personal growth and human self-determination should also not be taken lightly. Some tactical moves for constructionist conversation bottom-up change are as follows: making sense of resistance to change, selling issues laterally and upward, and negotiating and influencing the organizational groundwork when one is not in charge, including building and enhancing interpersonal skills, collaboratively clarifying a vision for change, and leading through influence and purpose setting. The social movements approach, at least as Scully and Segal describe it, aims to change power and reward structures. The tactical focus is on persuasion and educational efforts at the employee group level and micro level. Briscoe and Gupta provide a list of micro-level influence tactics from the social movements approach: tailored framing, customizing the message to the audience; repurposing organizational routines and processes, such as using overlooked rules and practices to accomplish goals; utilizing knowledge of decision-makers' personal values and political coalitions, that is, the inside scoop on what decision-makers personally care about; and leveraging networks to pursue change, establishing and using connections to groups inside and outside the organization to pool resources. The Tactical Moves Inventory is meant to be a collection of options for a change maker's actions to create bottom-up change. The inventory has 3 sections. 1. The Tactical Moves chart, a 3x3 grid. 2. Information on the tactical moves and underlying theoretical frameworks. And 3. A list of references. The chart is the principal resource for the bottom-up changemaker and is arranged on 2 dimensions. The first dimension is the expected changemaker's use of resources and effort, and the second dimension is the anticipated degree of disruption, or the potential for rocking the boat, a phrase borrowed from Meyerson. Here is the Tactical Moves Inventory chart. Again, a 3x3 grid that lists the tactical moves in cells arranged on 2 axes. The vertical is the anticipated change maker's use of resources and/or effort, and the horizontal is the expected disruption level. Each dimension has low, moderate, and high ratings. Ratings are approximate and context dependent. Moves are labeled with their theoretical framework, which is also a hyperlink to detailed explanations. Some moves occupy multiple boxes due to variable ratings. The green box lower left contains low-effort moves that are expected to create relatively little disruption. In the blue and red boxes, diagonally up and right, are tactical moves expected to require more resources and effort, as well as to cause more disturbance than those in the green box. Note that the chart is not intended to be static. Changemakers should add their preferred tactical moves that are based on the literature. They can also, of course, remove items as well, although having the range of one's repertoire listed in the chart cells can be helpful. Here is a quick generic scenario of how a changemaker might use the chart. An employee has discovered a wasteful standard procedure that plagues several departments. Her attempts to advocate for changing the process lead nowhere with her manager and with others around the office. The employee wants to seek ways to change the procedure, an example of bottom-up organization change, even though she has few formal resources and little free time to devote to the issue. She refers to the tactical moves inventory chart and decides to begin in the low effort, low disruption green box and gradually develop a vision through diagnostic and prognostic framing. Over time, she also proceeds to gather data to tell a story, a moderate effort, low disruption move, which also helps with motivational framing for developing a vision, a low effort, low disruption move. These efforts allow her to implement additional moves from the chart's moderate effort and moderate disruption blue box, selling issues, garnering resources and support, and using data to tell a story. Eventually, the employee becomes something of a subject matter expert on the wasteful standard process and has accumulated social capital in the form of credibility, data, and a growing network of colleagues with whom she occasionally meets in informal maker spaces to talk about where else to turn in this process. Her network of colleagues support her proposed change because she implemented using data to tell a story, selling issues, and use of discourse for motivating people, which are all moderate effort, moderate disruption moves. By leveraging small wins, a moderate effort, moderate disruption move, she can soon consider tactical moves in the high effort and high disruption red box, such as organized collective action, garnering resources and support, selling issues, and leveraging networks for change. This scenario brings the changemaker ethic of cobbling and tinkering together with the tactical moves inventory chart, which serves as a repertoire of actions for bottom-up change bricolage. If you would like a copy of the tactical moves inventory, please email me at michael.moon@csueastbay.edu. I will now recap with what I mean by change-making making change. Change-making starts small, focusing on available resources and local possibilities. Change-makers implement tactical moves skillfully, balancing risk and responsibility. Changemaker acts come from a repertoire of locally appropriate tactical moves drawn from the inventory of bottom-up change tactics and considerations. The changemaker takes on some amount of risk, which comes with the territory as a bottom-up change agent, but they are also a responsible participant in the organization. Tactical moves are chosen for problem solving and resourcefulness. The goal is to implement skillfully with an eye to discovering chances for creating change. Hopefully, like-minded collaborators are identified and gathered together, what we call changemaker spaces, where ongoing conversation playfully and opportunistically assess tactical moves for future implementation. This changemaker community celebrates their small wins and works through challenges in support of each other. Persistence in action helps to maintain a sense of efficacy and to establish a self-fulfilling cycle of positive contributions. Everyone understands that these projects are built on incremental gains over an extended timescale. Change makers are quiet, everyday leaders. This is change making, making change. Finally, taking a cue from Sundara Murthy and her colleagues, changemakers likely must adopt the approaches of both the bricoleur and the ingénieur. That is, beyond the tinkering innovator making do as a bricoleur, an effective changemaker must also adapt to institutional conventions and formal structures as an ingénieur. This comports with Meyerson's notion of tempered radicals who work within systems, not against them. These are the references cited. Thank you for watching. Email questions and comments to michael.moon@csueastbay.edu.